Hi, welcome to Spirit series on employee benefits. Today we will be discussing on accident insurance. The premium for an insurance policy under accident cover is highly competitive. It is one of the lowest in the personal insurance segment. It would be very surprising to note that the death only cover or a permanent total disablement cover could be given at 15 to 20 rupees per lakh. That means even at 2000 rupees, a coverage of up to 1 crore can also be obtained under this. But depending upon the acceptance by the insurance company based on the worth of the individual, the human life value is also considered. The sum insured on a benchmark basis, on a thumb rule, is given at 5 to 10 times of the annual CTC of a person, annual earnings of a person. But otherwise, any fully loaded policy that we have discussed, like with all those extensions and all, it would be around 100 rupees per lakh of sum insured. And for retail policies and all, the individually people can opt for these policies from all the available products that are there in the market. The standalone health insurance companies are offering many of the innovative products with very special add-ons that could be looked into. So, to understand accident insurance, we need to first understand what an accident means. I mean, the definition of an accident per se from insurance perspective. So, here there are 4 different checklist of items that need to be complied to term it as an accident. So, these 4 are the cause should be unwarranted, the cause should be external, the cause should be violent, and the cause should be visible. These are the 4 things that define an accident as an incident which should be treated for compensation by an insurance company. If any of these 4 conditions are not met with, so in that case it would not be considered as an accident. So here, if you take an example of a road accident is an unwarranted one, and it is something that comes as an external event, and it is also sometimes violent, and it should be visible also. And in the sense, the visible means you have any impact that is created is being visible either by naked eye or by an X-ray also. So these 4 conditions really form the crux of this policy. I once again repeat myself, it is unwarranted or unexpected event, it should be an external event, and it should be a violent event, and it should be a visible event. So if you take an example of an animal bite or an animal attack, any animal attack like a dog bite is also an accident. But there was a case which was brought to the Supreme Court recently, stating that a mosquito bite is also an accident, and that should be treated as per the provisions of an accident insurance policy. The National Commission has referred this to the Supreme Court. Here the apex body, apex court has given the verdict that it is unsustainable and it's manifestly incorrect and disallowed the compensation. All 4 here are not meeting the criteria. See, a mosquito bite is also something, I mean, if we try to see the checklist once again, a mosquito bite is unwarranted or an unexpected one. It is being considered as an external event. That means, I mean, it is not an internal manifestation within a human body. It is something external to human body, and it is visible also. I mean, a mosquito bite is also visible, but it is not violent enough to be considered as an accident. So that is the reason why a mosquito bite earlier was referred to the Supreme Court, and then it was not considered as an accident. The coverage for accident insurance comes under fixed benefit category, unlike an indemnity kind of a category. So in a fixed benefit category, what happens is any sum insured that is specified and accepted by the insurance company has to be paid fully. So whereas in an indemnity policy, like a mediclaim is an indemnity policy, whatever expenditure that is incurred is only paid for, and not up to the sum insured. So there is no excess or deductible also, which we commonly see like in a motor policy for the depreciation. That is another aspect. No excess and deductible would be there in a personal accident policy. And here, if we observe, I mean, what is covered under an accident insurance? So we have two broad things that are covered. One is an accidental death and the other one is a bodily injury. A bodily injury is something which results into a disablement which is either permanent or temporary, and this is further classified as total and partial disability. With these four different things, I mean, we get four different combinations like a permanent total disablement and permanent partial disablement, and temporary total disablement and temporary partial disablement. A temporary partial disablement is not allowed for an insurance claim. So we are left with the main three things, which is a permanent total disablement and permanent partial disablement and temporary total disablement also. A permanent total disablement is due to amputation or dismemberment or making the major limbs non-functional, like any of the two major limbs like two legs or two hands or two eyes or two ears or any combination of these like one leg and one hand, one eye and one ear. So these things are also considered under a permanent total disablement. Whereas in permanent partial disablement, so any one of the limb is getting affected, like due to an amputation or dismemberment, that is coming under a permanent partial disablement. Whereas a temporary total disablement is something which is also called and referred to as weekly benefit. So it is actually incapacity to work. So somebody who meets with an accident, so he is advised medical checkup and he is advised bed rest for a specified duration. So it is during this period that he will not be able to attend any duties. So this is also compensated under a group personal accident policy. And even some of the retail policies do also have this temporary total disablement, any compensation for the bed rest that is availed at. Coverage for this would be 1% of sum insured or up to 5,000 rupees in a week, and sometimes it is also given for higher sublimit over and above this usual 5,000 rupees that is applied upon. So it is all depending upon the acceptance of the insurance company to allow for what kind of sublimit that is being underwritten at the time of proposal. Who can be covered under an accident insurance? So who all can be covered? So it is it doesn't limit anybody from this coverage, mainly due to one factor that it is not age dependent. So and also it is not earning dependent. So even a student can get himself covered under an accident insurance. So what an underwriter of an insurance company looks at is the nature of work, the category of work that somebody is into. So one needs to understand the main broad classification of these categories. So they are classified into white collared, blue collared and high risk category. These are the three things that are there that are being imposed or evaluated by an insurance company. So white collared category is one where these administrative officers or office goers or students, these are all considered as white collared kind of, and blue collared are the ones who are into manufacturing companies or I mean the people who are operators or even the marketing field staff. So these are all classified under the blue collared category. And the third one, which is of higher risk, is the jobs like somebody who is performing in circus, employed in mines or engaged in power transmission lines. I mean people who are working at great heights and all. So these are considered to be high risk category. Even the miners, I mean the collieries, people working in those kind of extreme conditions are all considered under the high risk category. So one should be very careful in terms of declaring what the nature of work is, or otherwise there could be a problem at the time of claim, because one category being assumed and at the time of claim if something else is being given for claim. So the insurance company might say, I mean it's a misrepresentation of fact. So this can also come as a hurdle in terms of at times of the claim settlement or process. There are some extensions available under accident insurance also, which is if a death occurs, the transportation of mortal remains either from the place of accident, if it is within the same jurisdiction of India or being flown in from any other country where the death occurred, because this is a policy which has a worldwide cover. So, transportation of mortal remains up to the sublimit mentioned is covered under the policy, and even the cremation expenses can also be taken as an extension. And emergency ambulance, I mean the ambulance service, I mean if an incident occurs, though the ambulance service is availed, it is not on a cashless basis. Just like, I mean, we try to get it under a Mediclaim policy. An accident policy is always on reimbursement mode. So, and the other one is education grant or education fund for the children, the dependent children. I mean, it could be a lump sum amount, or it could be as a percentage of the sum insured, or it could be any specified amount for the next 2 years or 5 years, depending upon the policy structure. And cost of prosthetics, I mean, any other additional supports that were given post an accident, those are also covered up to the mentioned sublimit. And even the accident which are treated inside the hospital and accidents which are treated as an outpatient, even there could be an extension even for this kind of a coverage as well. And sometimes even hospital admission, if it is done on an inpatient basis, even daily allowance kind of a extension is also available. So, the exclusions under a group personal accident policy or a personal accident policy are mostly common. One is any self-inflicted injury or any attempts of suicide. I mean, these are all not covered under this policy. And any incident that occurs due to any influence of alcohol or drug abuse, this is also not covered. And somebody who is participating in an attempted felony, riots or civil commotion. So, this is commonly referred to as SRCC, strike, riot and civil commotion. So, these are also not considered by the insurance company, because it is a willful participation in something that would create or it's like inviting an accident. So, something that is unwarranted is being warranted. So, these things are also not covered. And any adventure sports, unless it is specifically getting included in the policy, these are also not covered under the policy. And war and warlike situations are also not covered, where if something happens at the time of war, so it is beyond the control of an insurance company or even the government for that matter. The pregnancy complications or any other things related to HIV and AIDS, these are also not covered by the insurance policy. These are all excluded. A word of advice related to accidental insurance is, I mean, sometimes if there are certain clauses that limit the scope of cover, like an actively at work clause would limit it to be an on-duty cover only. I mean, it doesn't allow the coverage to be given on a worldwide basis and on a 24/7 basis. So, that means only when the person who has met with an accident should be on duty and actively at work. So, this is one thing that one needs to be very cautious about, and this limitation should not be there in a personal accident policy. And the jurisdiction also should be on a worldwide basis. So, sometimes who is traveling abroad should also be covered in case of any eventuality, in any distress, or in case of any air crash or things like that. And it should be 24/7, I mean worldwide and 24/7. And some corporates can also have these policies on an unnamed basis also. So, if there is a movement of employees which is on a continuous basis, so employees keep joining, they keep leaving. So, these kind of a policies, I mean, where the turnover or the attrition or the movement of the employees is very high, then in that case an unnamed policy can also be opted. So, this is one word of advice from Spearhead. Thank you.